All right, guys, here's a little variation on mesh. It's the mesh rail variation that everyone loves so much. So just to run the playthrough, the Cowboys are running mesh, and it's easy to see where they're getting their three components from, right? We've got an under coming from this guy, we've got the over coming from that guy, and then we've got the point being set up here by this guy, and that forms the triangle that makes mesh, right? We got there to there to there. That's that interior triangle that forms the foundation of mesh that we're always going to read. And any mesh play is always going to have those three components. They're going to have an under guy who's a shallow, they're going to have an over guy who's a shallow, and then they're going to have a deep guy who's setting up over the ball somewhere from 10 to 15 yards. It could be a dig route, it could be a spot route, it could be straight to it, it could look like he's setting a pick. There's different ways to do it, but essentially a guy who sets the top point of the triangle, right? Now, the other component that you will always see on mesh is what I call the access beater, right? So if you're going to get cover three, mesh doesn't work so well. The concept behind mesh is that we have three receivers who are, in most defenses, running through two defenders. But if you get a cover three look where the defense has put an extra hat down near the line of scrimmage down in the box, like a safety is down playing as an overhang, playing linebacker kicked in, you've got two hook players and two curl players. That's not necessarily going to work so well. So then you also have your access bailout, who in this case is the deep out right here. So if we go back and watch the deep out cut right here, you're going to get the deep out where if this was cover three and the corner was high, we could just throw the deep out and not have to worry about the triangle portion of the mesh. That's the next super important component of mesh. So there you see the two parts of mesh that should be included in any mesh play, right? We see here the deep out coming here, and then we see the triangle forming right now. That's that mesh triangle. Now, this route doesn't have to be a deep out. You'll get some teams that run it as a curl, some teams that run it as a comeback, and some teams will run a little more aggressive. They'll run it as a skinny post and try to fit between the free safety and the corner in a cover three situation. Okay. The interesting component, the wrinkle here is the rail, right? So what they've done is they're now taking this guy and running him on a rail. And a lot of teams will do that when they think they're getting man coverage and they want to try to run a receiver against them. What they've done here is they've actually put CeeDee Lamb in the backfield. This is from a couple of years ago. So you got CeeDee Lamb in the backfield and you got Zeke Elliott out at receiver. And they're trying to get CeeDee Lamb matched up in the case of man coverage. Now, if we want mesh rail, we obviously now don't want to just read the triangle. We're adding this rail in for a reason. Is the quarterback peek the rail first, and if the rail is available, he's going to take it. If not, we're going to look for the drag, that under who's going to replace it, which is where the ball ends up going this time, right? The Rams do a good job peeling. They peel a defensive end here, stand-up guy, stand-up edge player. They peel him with CeeDee Lamb. He does a good job melting over the top of this, knowing what's coming. And so Dak Prescott brings the ball down and throws the easy shallow to Zeke Elliott, right? So a great little wrinkle on mesh is having that mesh rail. You know, I would venture that 99% of the teams that run mesh already have mesh rail in as kind of a wrinkle coming off of it. But any team that runs mesh can run it in 10 or 15 different ways. It's a very versatile concept. As long as you have that triangle portion, you could do this from a whole bunch of different formations too, right? You have a guy running the top portion of this, right? This player right here who's going to become the top of the mesh, he could come from somewhere else. Like you could bring him over here and have him go set the top of it over here. You could do this in any number of ways. You could bunch this guy down. You could put him as a traditional slot. Again, you can do it from a million different formations as long as you get those three components, that 3-point triangle, and then have the out, the kind of the access beater to the opposite side. That makes it easy, and the rail is everyone's most common wrinkle. So definitely a wrinkle worth looking at, and a good example here from the Cowboys of not just taking the automatic wrinkle. We're not calling mesh rail just to throw the rail. We're calling it because, there's a read attached to it, and we end up coming off of it and throwing the shallow. So easy completion for 10 yards.